All right, let's get back into the thick of it. All right, we are back in the thick of it. We're looking at the mechanics of the group ritual. Now how you move from a single person staring into a mirror to a collective engine of intent.
And it sounds so intense. Like the way he describes the transition between visions, it's almost like they're trying to reset a computer.
Exactly. Look at the text right here. He says once the vision of the mountain range reaches final clarity, you don't just move on. You have to tell your companions, entered. And only when everyone responds with that same word do you lift your eyes to look at each other.
Because you have to break the link.
Right. To break the link between your inner vision and that vision, clearing your perception for the next one. It's a deliberate decoupling.
I love that. It's like, okay, we saw the mountains, great, now let's clear the cache before we load the next level. But then he gets into the physical part. The hands, the clockwise movements.
The magical magnetism. He says you move your hands 3 to 5 centimeters above the surface, stirring the visions in the blackness of this cauldron. It's so visceral. It's kinetic.
But look at what happens next. He says the portal is ready when white mist appears, and then, boom, sudden jump to the island of Sabul. Show me the secret island of Sabul. Show me the secret island of Sabul.
And it's not a random hallucination. He claims this is a testing ground. He even says these places, the mountains, the island are real, even if the names are just internal landmarks.
Wait, hold on. He says these places house the 2 most wonderful temples on this planet, and they are power places used every day. That's a massive claim, Seth. He's saying the astral geography is overlapping with our physical reality.
He is. He's arguing that the distinction between there and here dissolves once you have spiritual kinship with the site.
Right, as long as you don't mind the spiritual kinship involving potentially disturbing entities. Because look at the third vision. This is where it gets creepy. He introduces the demon Raya. And he says, get this, Raya is unique, because while the demon can feel your gaze and even talk to you, he will not appear in a full evocation. He won't obey commands.
No way. So he's just watching you?
Exactly. He just shows his face in the mirror. And Koetting even warns, do not engage in any telepathic communication with him, as the demon will clearly attempt to use such a trick.
That is terrifying. It's like a predator just staring at you through a window, waiting for you to trip up.
It's a complete break from the command and control approach we talked about earlier. Usually, the goal is to bend the entity to your will, but here, the practitioner is essentially being tested by a presence that refuses to be mastered.
Okay, but let's pivot to the power in numbers part, because this is where I get excited. He moves into Group Evocation 1. This isn't just a shared experience, it's a quartet of mages.
I love the imagery here. A ritual circle that's a trench filled with water, 3 meters wide. 4 participants, dividing the invocations like musical parts.
It's beautiful, actually. He says it's almost natural how people fall into their roles. One person takes fire, another air. He says he's never even seen them argue over who stands where. They just know.
I'd like to see that happen in our group after a long night of Munchkin. We'd be arguing over who has to stand in the damp trench for hours.
Hey, leave the magic to the professionals, but look at the intensity of the ritual itself. They're using sandalwood and dittany blue candles, a bowl of honey or sweet wine. And then this part, the evoker at the south takes the cup and says, I drink the blood of God. I take into myself all his power.
That is such a heavy, transformative moment. He's describing a literal recharging of the person through the consecrated liquid.
It connects back to his earlier claim about subjective synthesis. You aren't just performing a play, you are consuming the ritual. You are becoming the ritual.
Until the very end when they say, he is near.
And then they just start the incense. The tension is just, it's palpable.
Okay, the energy in here is shifting. We've moved from the individual's mirror to the group's triangle. And look, the instructions for this stage are, well, they're intense. He says you place your hands on the altar and stare at the sigil. You have to see the inner essence of the symbol lying deeper than paper and ink.
That sounds like the subjective synthesis he mentioned earlier. You're trying to dissolve the object itself.
Exactly. And then, this is the part that gets me. He says you breathe in, feel the approach, and then breathe out and see the lines of the sigil glowing with the power radiating from it. You keep doing this until the sigil stops being a physical object and becomes a spiritual element that turns the temple into the center of the metaphysical universe.
A bit dramatic, isn't it? The center of the universe? I mean, I've had caffeine hits that felt more transformative than that.
But wait, Jane, look at the cue. Once the sigil is glowing, the evoker gives the signal. One word, it is coming. And only when everyone says it is coming, do you look at each other.
It's that collective synchronization again. And then, he describes the manifestation. It's not some subtle vibe. He says the presence becomes an embodied entity that will take full physical form within seconds.
That's a massive leap. From a glowing sigil to a physical body in seconds.
And it's not even starting in the triangle. He says the spirit is wandering the room first. It's like a ghost in a horror movie, just pacing the perimeter before it decides to show up in the middle of the smoke.
Yeah, but look at how they pull it in. They use the smoke. The incense is the medium. As the group's will intensifies, they direct the spirit from the edges of the room, through the veils, right into the triangle.
And the commands? They're so structured, it's a call and response from the four corners. The south calls for a visible form and a distinct voice. The west says, "We've prepared this temple for you." The north demands the presence. And the east?
The east is the heavy hitter. We have forced the heavens to shift. Gods and angels have yielded the way. Devils and demons have opened the way.
Talk about an ego trip. We force the heavens to shift. I can barely get my car to start on a Monday morning, and these guys are rearranging the cosmos.
But you can't deny the tension, Jane. He says the whole temple will be enough to be filled with an excitability similar to the trembling Enoch felt when he ascended. It's a state of high-frequency vibration.
But, and here's the kicker, he adds a huge caveat. He says, even while this power is boiling in your veins, you must maintain absolute composure. Your breathing must be steady. Your heart must be calm.
That's a wild contradiction. How do you hold absolute authority and divine power while trying not to let your heart rate spike?
It's like being a bomb disposal expert. One shaky breath, and boom, the portal blows up in your face.
He actually says the calmness of the group is what allows the forces to enter without resistance. If you're too excited, you're blocking the portal.
And look at the visual sign. It's not a person appearing instantly. It starts as a white mist in the center of the triangle. It's thick. It stays about a meter off the ground, hovering, like a concentrated cloud of something.
And then he drops the most practical yet unsettling part. He says the spirit, specifically this entity Abertala, uses a dual communication. You get the verbal level questions and an answers, but then there's a silent, telepathic level.
The Hibben conversation.
Exactly. The spirit bypasses your conscious mind. It plants ideas, intuitions, and messages directly into your brain, and you don't even realize it's happening until later. You think it's your own spontaneous thought, but it's actually the demon whispering in your ear.
That is a nightmare for anyone who values their own autonomy. You can't even trust your own aha moments anymore.
It ties back to that reprogramming the brain claim from the start. If the goal is to deactivate the brain's interference, you've essentially opened a back door for the entity to walk right in.
It's a complete surrender of the self. You start by commanding the spirit to appear, and you end by being a vessel for its suggestions.
Which is why the ritual has enough to end with a formal dismissal. The North Mage has to say, "Go into the world and make happen what we have commanded. You are free."
You have to close the door. Because if you don't, and you're still wandering the room with that heavy telepathic connection, you might not be the one in charge of your own house anymore.
Okay, we just witnessed the peak of the group ritual, the engines of intent, fully engaged. But now, Koetting takes it to a level that feels less like a ritual and more like a cosmic heavy metal album cover.
I mean, look at the setup. He's talking about more than one triangle now. He's describing two triangles of manifestation, one in the north and one in the south. Two separate altars, two separate energies.
And it's more than more stuff. It's specific. He says for the north, you need frankincense, but for the south, you need pine. It's like he's trying to create a sensory clash, a friction between these two poles.
And check out the stakes. He says if you call the spirits Tenebrion and Masvidal together, the air becomes so thick with stifling darkness that it feels like every inhabitant of hell is just standing there, frozen, watching the ceremony, waiting for a single signal to strike.
That is a hell of a way to describe a Tuesday night.
But look at the mechanics, Jane. It's not random. He says you can choose your flavor of evocation. If you like earth energies, you call Perescu a water spirit riding a wave, and Fuskar a fire spirit who literally breathes smoke.
It's so beautiful, though. The imagery of the fire spirit's skin being reddish and his very breath being smoke. It's so vivid. It's that subjective synthesis again. You're building a world.
Yeah. Well, if you prefer angelic vibes, he says you can go with Andrevid, beautiful female angel, and Eggsartala, an androgynous figure.
And then he brings in the planetary stuff. Jupiter with Alator, Mercury with Morisco. It's like a cosmic menu. Would you like a demon, an angel, or a planet with your dinner?
But here's where the engineer in me starts to get nervous. Because he makes this huge claim about pairing. He says you must evoke entities that are naturally opposed to one another. He says if you do this right, it creates a spontaneous effect that unites their efforts to achieve your goal.
It's like using two opposing forces to create a stable circuit.
But look at the warning, Emily. He says you can't just pick pairs at random. He says if you try to evoke spirits that are incompatible, or if you exceed 4 spirits, the result isn't magic. It's extreme, life-altering spiritual and occult damage.
He literally says it can blind and maim you for the rest of your life.
And he's not even being hyperbolic. He says the failure comes from the same place as the success, the ego. If you think you have more moral reputation than the spirits, or if you challenge them even with a hint of disrespect, the ritual collapses into a deadly struggle for power.
It's the don't poke the bear rule.
So the ritual itself, let's walk through it. They're staring at the sigils. The lines start to glow. And then they all say, in unison, there is.
Est. Just one word. But then the invocation starts. The South group calls to Tenebrion. Hear our voices, see our signs. Let your power become our power. And then the North group repeats the exact same formula from Asfiel.
It's a mirror image. 2 sides of the same coin. They touch the sigils. They impregnate the paper with energy. And then this is the part that always gets me. They wait for the South spirit to materialize. First.
Because you don't want the whole room full of demons at once. You bring one in, you get the hang of it, and then you call the second.
And the command? It has to be prepared beforehand. The command must be clearly formulated so that it is acceptable to every participant. No room for, let's see what happens, improvising here.
It's so disciplined. But then the end. He says that after all this, the group work, the intense power that caused Yumek scale, the whole point is that the experience is integrated back into the individual.
The path is ultimately a personal one.
Exactly. He says you use the group to build the muscles, but you take those lessons back to your solitary practice. The group ritual is just a way to learn how to sit on your invisible throne in the dark, alone.
It's a heavy way to live. But I guess, if you're going to rule your own universe, you might as well learn how to do it with a few allies at your back first. I need a snack, or a joke, or a nap. I'm losing the thread.
That's because you're losing your focus, Seth. Don't let him off easy just because he's being profound.